Welcome back to Big Fellas. My name is Mark.
And I'm Darren. Mark, quite excited today. Tell everyone about the guest that we got on today.
Yeah, got a huge guest today. Really excited for this one. Not only did he score against Ipswich on his Norwich City debut, he also won the Premier League.
Yeah, a hell of a guest.
And who's that?
Luke Chadwick, we have on today.
Luke Chadwick, so part of the Premier League winning side with Manchester United, played with the likes of Scholes, Beckham, Giggs,
Roy Keane,
Alex
Ferguson,
Sir Alex, of course. So yeah, some great names in there. But what we're looking to talk about today, and because what Luke Chadwick does now is he runs a kids football group called Football Fun Factory. My kids have all played in it. Your kids have played in it, is that right?
That's right, mate, yeah. And today we want to cover the apple not falling too far from the tree. So, Mark, I've struggled with my weight, and one of the things I really worry about is passing those bad habits on to my kids. So that's kind of what we want to talk about today. But look, at the end of the day, we've got a Premier League winner on. We're going to talk about football.
Of course we are. And like I said, I'm going to talk to him about scoring against Ipswich and sort of playing for the Norwich City as a big fan. But yeah, what he's doing now as the kids is really important, and it's something we've really got to sort of be aware of and conscious of. Our kids are our biggest fans. They see what we do, they see what we eat, they see our activity, and so the apple really doesn't fall far from the tree. So if they see us eating crappy shit food and not getting any exercise and not being very active, they're going to see that as normal. And we've got to do something about that. And so any initiative to get our kids out and get active are really important. And so what Luke's doing now with the Football Fun Factory, I think, is huge. And this should make for a really good episode.
Yeah. So let's jump in.
Let's go. And here he is. It's official now. We can call you a Manchester United legend.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I was lucky enough to get the call up though, and to run back out on the Old Trafford pitch a couple of weeks back was a special moment for me.
Yeah. How was that then?
Yeah, like I say, I got probably a couple of months ago now, inviting me up there. I didn't know if it was someone pulling me leg and messing about, but to go up there and sort of share a pitch with so many true Manchester United legends. And for me personally, it was the first time I've ever been back on that actual pitch and playing on it since playing for Cambridge United in the FA Cup there. So it brought back many precious memories. It was quite the experience.
So as we're talking, Luke, we've just been talking about how sort of the apple doesn't fall far from the tree and how it's important our habits reflect on our children and getting kids fit and everything. But let's start back from the beginning. What was your childhood like and sort of activity-wise and playing football?
Yeah, I think in a sporting sense, it was purely football. I think I fell in love with the game probably when I was about 5 or 6 years old, just playing out in the garden with my mum, my dad, my brother, and the love for the game grew from there. I think a massive sort of part of my childhood was going to watch Cambridge United play at the Abbey Stadium. I think going to that, experiencing a proper game in a stadium was really something special for me, and sort of being so close to the players, I think from such a young age, that sort of spurred me on to want to be a professional footballer. So it was mainly football, obviously going to school, but it was always the best fit was always even playing football in the living room, which my mum would go mad about, out in the garden with my friends. That was the best times for me and my best memories of childhood.
Absolutely. Was that the John Beck era then when you were going to watch Cambridge, was it?
Yeah, John Beck, that really a hugely successful time for the club. The likes of obviously John Taylor, Dion Dublin, so many Cambridge legends playing at that time. And it was a real fun, exciting time to be a Cambridge United fan. Yeah,
no, I remember it. And I'm a couple of years younger than you, Luke, but when I was a teenager, I went to watch Cambridge United myself. I'm a Norwich fan first and foremost. We'll get onto that in a bit because, but I used to go and watch Cambridge United, just being the local team, and it was the days of Roy McFarland was the manager, John Shaggy Taylor, Martin Butler, Trevor Benjamin. So that was a great time for the club then as well.
No, great team, another great team that the club had.
I think we went a few times actually.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah, I remember standing there in that standing end and being 15 at the time and it was quite a crazy atmosphere for two.
The Newmarket Road end, yeah, it was great when the goals went in.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. That's good stuff. So going into sort of like the academy setup, and then Luke, how did you go from being a kid loving football? How did it sort of happen?
Yeah, it was very different back then in terms of there wasn't a academy structure as what it looks like today. I think I went into my first grassroots club. It was a under-9s team called Melbourne Tigers, and back then, even as a 8-year-old, you used to go on straight to a 11-a-side pitch with full-size goals. I was incredibly fast as a child, and how our tactics as a team would work. I used to be the striker. My teammates would whack the ball over the little defenders' heads. I'd chase after it and score into the massive goal. And I think it was that sort of early success that I had in football that obviously gave me a huge amount of confidence to sort of go on. I went to my first professional club was Arsenal, when it was the Arsenal School of Excellence at under 13. I used to go and train there once a week at Highbury at the JVC Centre. There was a little indoor pitch at the stadium. And then the year after, as an under 14 player, got invited up to Manchester United off the back of scoring a lot of goals in the Cambridge schools team. That's where I was recognised. And going up to Manchester United as a 14-year-old was a special, special time. The club was doing incredibly well at the time. And it was, I was exposed to the most incredible environment in terms of what it was like going up there. I was an incredibly shy, introverted boy. I was really nervous of going up there, but sort of the way that I was made to feel welcome, I fell in love with the club straight away. And then to be offered a schoolboy form, I signed that straight away. And then from the ages of 14 to 16, I used to travel up from my home in Cambridge up to Manchester every weekend. And then when I left school at 16, I signed a YTS form and moved up to Manchester full time. So that was the sort of journey. Today, I know it's incredibly different, the amount of sort of training time that the young kids get within professional football clubs. But that back then, it was, I didn't even train with Manchester United. I used to just go up for the games at the weekend and then sign there full time at 16 years old.
And just what was it like sort of going through that process then? So you're like now a teenager and you're playing a lot of football. Did you even think about food, or at that age were you just like, I can eat whatever I want and do whatever I need to do?
Yeah, I was very lucky that my mum used to sort of feed us healthy meals. I don't think my eating habits were incredible. Like if I had the opportunity to have fish and chips at McDonald's, whatever it may be, I'd always take that opportunity. I think when you sort of then go into the full-time footballing world, you sort of understand how important diet is and you're sort of educated around that. But I think in my sort of schoolboy days, it was sort of whatever my mum would feed me for tea. And then if there was an opportunity to go out and get a take, I don't remember us having takeaways that much as children, but I always used to enjoy that Chinese takeaway or fish and chips on the rare occasion that we did have them.
And when you got into sort of United, what was sort of like nutrition and sort of food like then? I know it's a lot more scientific nowadays, but sort of when you were breaking into the team, what was it like? Was there much thought for nutrition, or is it like back of your mind back then?
Yeah, I think it is. There was certainly thought that went behind it. There was a dietitian full time at the club that used to deal with all the young players and the first team players. But I think sort of scientifically it's changed over the years to what it is now. I remember it was sort of pre-match meal. We used to be having sort of steak, mashed potato and all sorts, where you probably wouldn't see that as much now, but it was all around sort of just refueling the body, because obviously training every day, you're doing so much sort of running around. It was so important to replenish with plenty of carbohydrates and proteins to make sure that you were fit and able to train the same day. I think as a kid, I didn't really eat that much in terms of I was very skinny and didn't need a huge amount, and sort of leave a lot of dinner. And my mum used to say, you can't leave that, make sure you eat it all. I know when I went up to Manchester and was training all day, every day, that I started eating a heck of a lot more because I was so hungry from all the training that we were doing.
I bet, yeah. Yeah, it does take its toll no matter, you can be young, you can be in the prime of life and you still got to fuel your body to do all that, haven't you? So what was it like then, mate, when you did break through? What was it sort of, what's the first big debut that you made, maybe come off the bench or?
Yeah, so my first team debut was in the Worthington Cup, which it was called back then, where the manager used to play a lot of the younger players. I was 17 playing at Villa Park. There was a lot of us young lads playing against a very experienced Aston Villa team. Part of the Aston Villa team that day was Dion Dublin, who was a massive hero of mine growing up. So it felt quite surreal.
Wow, of course,
being on
yeah.
the same pitch as him that day. We lost the game 3-0 against a very good Villa team. We were very young. There's probably 6 or 7 of us making our debuts. And I remember sitting in the dressing room after the game, and Sir Alex Ferguson obviously wasn't happy and gave us a bit of a dressing down because we got beat. But at the same time, I just couldn't stop myself from being absolutely buzzing. Obviously not because we got beat, for the fact that I'd made my debut for Manchester United, something that I probably even signing from didn't imagine actually happening, the sort of the enormity of that. So it was my debut. After that, I went on loan to Royal Antwerp out in Belgium for around 7-8 months before coming back and sort of then being in and around the first team at Manchester United. I made my Premier League debut against Middlesbrough at Old Trafford when I came on as a 8-minute substitute for Dwight York, I think, and I was on the pitch for about 3 or 4 minutes, hardly touched the ball. But again, being on the pitch at Old Trafford was so special, and making a Premier League debut, they're memories that I'll obviously never, ever forget, and something I'm really proud of.
Absolutely. And so, yeah. And of course, you work for the best manager of all time, arguably.
I hate to say it, I'm a Liverpool fan, but you can't really argue it, can you?
Yeah, he would like to the lessons that you learn from working under Sir Alex are like the lessons that I'll still remember today. He was such a incredible person. They had a way of making everyone within that club want to run through a brick wall for him, through the sort of the environment and the culture that he built there. When he gave you any praise, said you'd done well, he'd make you feel like 100 foot tall. It was an incredible feeling. And likewise, if you did something wrong, got a telling off, got a dressing down, it was obviously scary if the manager shouted at you, but probably the worst feeling was the thought that you'd let him down, the one man that you really wanted to impress at the club. And what the dynasty that he built there was obviously because of him as a person as much as anything else, and the standards that he set himself and for everyone else to follow suit.
Is that like being around someone like that, you know, that's just a absolute legend at what he does? Do you sort of later in life, you're now, you know, director of business, which we'll get onto later, but was there management lessons that you took there and took from him and learned from him that you implement later in life?
Yeah, I think more sort of the life lessons of what was expected and the standards within the club before anything else. Obviously, all the players there were incredible footballers, but it was just as much as what you were as a person in and around the football club, the standards that were there to be up sort of the hard every day more than anything else, having humility in terms of what you were doing, who you were representing. And I think all of those lessons that you learnt there, you can take in with you through life. I certainly took them lessons through my football career, away from the football club, from Manchester United, and also coming out of the game and going into a different industry. So I think in terms of the biggest sort of lessons and grateful for the most from Manchester United is how it taught you to be a good human being more than anything else.
Awesome. I see a load of those sort of like Roy Keane clips on social media and bits and bobs. And that very much strikes me as that both Ferguson, and it seems from social media, I know that you don't get a real picture there, but Roy Keane also had quite high standards.
Roy was sort of the manager of the dressing room, as it were. He would drive the standards every day. It was an incredibly intense environment, and a lot of that came from his work ethic and what he expected from everyone else. If you weren't working as hard as you can and putting the effort in, he would certainly tell you in no uncertain terms. And I think he was such an incredible captain, leader, and I think the way that him and Sir Alex being at the club at the same time is a massive reason for the club's huge success during that period.
And you were part of a league-winning side as well, weren't you? Is that right?
Yeah, I have managed to play enough games to get a medal for the 2000-2001 season. It's a sort of people ask me about a lot. And again, something I'm very proud of. I know that I wasn't a massive part of that squad. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure if I weren't in that squad, they still would have won the league that season. But it was still incredible to lift that trophy and have a medal back at home today. Something that, again, football has been incredibly good to me and give me so many precious memories. And that's right up there with the best of them.
Talking about precious memories, I sort of looking at your career. My favourite part of your career would be your debut for Norwich, which, if I remember rightly, you scored against Ipswich at Portman Road. Is that right?
Yeah, it was a very bittersweet day, to be honest with you. I was absolutely delighted to sign from Norwich, to come back home, to sort of play for a local club and a wonderful football club as well. Brilliant support, brilliant people that were in the dressing room, in the sort of upstairs, the chair, from everyone in the club. And to score on my debut against Ipswich, all the crowd singing my name, it was a brilliant time. But then got a really bad injury in the last few minutes of that game, which left me being injured for about 7-8 months and never really got going at Norwich, which was a real disappointment because I was so happy to sign for the club. But I got to take away the goal at Portman Road anyway. That was some best moment at the club on my debut.
Yeah, absolutely. And so then, I think, we skipped, but you played for West Ham before and Stoke. That was right, wasn't it? So you left United, went to West Ham. Is that right? Then Stoke.
Yeah.
Then Norwich. Yes.
Yeah. I've had more clubs than Tiger Wood, many people say. So when I left Manchester United, I signed for West Ham, then went to Stoke, then Norwich, then MK Dons, then finished my career at Cambridge United, which was obviously a way to finish at the team that I supported. Yeah. So really, and sort of the club that made me fall in love with football as a 6-7-year-old child.
That's just nice. And I guess there's a lot of pros that probably don't get that privilege to play for the club that they grew up supporting. I mean, certainly sort of maybe in the sort of more at the end of your career where you can come in as that experienced pro and everything. So I guess it's not such a nice touch and everything.
I've just got a little question before we sort of come away from football and into other stuff. But who is the toughest player that you ever played against?
I think that the two hardest fullbacks, being a sort of a right winger in my younger days, was in training at Manchester United, because I was in the team that was playing against the starting 11 in the second team, shall we say. I always used to be up against Mikel Silvestre, and he was so quick and strong that I really struggled to get past him. The other player would be a player that I sort of grew up with the young England teams, was Ashley Cole, who again, he was just so quick, and I used to try and knock it past him and sort of get round him the other side, but he was always too quick. So probably the hardest defenders I ever played against were Mikel Silvestre and Ashley Cole.
Sure. And the best player you played alongside, who would that be?
Without a doubt, it would have been Paul Scholes. He was an absolute genius. Training with him every day in training, I think, you see how good he actually is. He's got so much vision, passing range was so good. And like, despite the fact that there was a number of the best players in the world at Manchester United at that time, he was always the best player in training. He was an absolute genius of a player.
He seems like such a nice, humble guy as well. From what you see of him in interviews, he seems like just a really good human being to go with it.
Yeah, and I think you could say the same for everyone. Well, the majority of people that come through at Manchester United, because I think that is the grounding that you're given. I think even the likes of David Beckham, a world superstar now, but such a humble, fantastic guy, and I think that's what was brought through at the club at that time.
So moving on, you've moved into football still, but in a different guise. Tell us about Football Fun Factory. How's that come about?
Yeah, so obviously it is still involved in the game, which I'm really grateful for, but it's certainly the opposite end of the spectrum now. I think it was something when I first stopped football, when my career came to an end, I didn't really know what I was going to do next. Ended up going through my coaching qualifications to in my mind, what I envisaged was old footballers just become football coaches at the end, and sort of went down that route, started coaching within an academy, which was some brilliant parts of that role, but also I realised it wasn't for me. I used to get sick of the sound of my own voice sort of shouting at the side of the football pitch. And there was something about it that didn't sit right with me, where the joy and the fun of the game used to sort of fizzle out on for many of the children that were involved. So when I had the opportunity to become part of the Football Fun Factory, James Cutting and Johnny Martin, two friends and former colleagues at Cambridge United, set it up, I really jumped at the chance. It encapsulated me in terms of, it reminded me so much of my early experiences playing football, where I don't remember any tactical, technical information I was given, but I remember that I absolutely loved it. I loved chasing the ball around with my teammates because the coaches made it so much fun. And what the Football Fun Factory was trying to do was do that on a mass scale, to give thousands and thousands of children the opportunity to enjoy football in a pressure-free environment at its very core, really, and use football as a vehicle to develop positive life skills as well. I think there's so many outcomes from football that are so much more important than the actual football. And I think being part of an organisation of the Football Fun Factory is so rewarding, because our coaches are doing such a wonderful job throughout the UK and Ireland in giving children such valuable life lessons through playing the beautiful game.
Yeah, absolutely. And so both of our, well, we've got kids between us, not between us like that. You've got kids, I've got kids, and they've all played in Football Fun Factory, and it's been fantastic.
And all of our kids now, you know, they're moving on in age a bit, and they're now playing for teams. So, you know, I agree with you, Luke. I think it's certainly looking at my sons. They're very sociable. They're very good. Like they've been going to Football Fun Factory for quite a while. They used to go to the holiday camps, but they've grown an absolute love for the sport. And this is obviously a weight loss podcast. That's something I'm incredibly grateful for. You know, I've always pushed them in, said, don't care what sport you do, but I want you to do one, because I've had my own weight struggles, and I'm very, very conscious that I don't want them to go through the same. And I think that's why things like Football Fun Factory are so important, because it gave them a love for the game that thankfully I love as well. But they now play in their league, and, you know, at least twice a week, they're not sat down, they're out exercising, and to be honest, a lot more in the garden as well.
That's that obviously brilliant feedback to get, and that's everything that we want the Football Fun Factory to be. It's an opportunity for children to go out, run about, get some fresh air, and also, I'm sure with your kids as well, make loads of new friends and have that social side of it as well. And it's so like rewarding to hear that feedback from yourselves of the experiences that your children have had within our programs.
And I think, you know, your kids enjoy it when you, you know, 6 weeks in the summer holidays. I'm sure most parents go through that fear of, oh my God, what am I going to do? But you know, you can gauge it from, you know, if you're going into a standard whatever camp, and then if you're going to that, and they enjoy that. And we also noticed that you're at Centre Parks now, right?
Yeah, so for the last couple of years now, we are the sort of the football provider for Centre Parks. So our sessions run there on a daily basis, which is obviously brilliant for the business to be associated, working in partnership with such a fantastic brand. And it's seen huge success in terms of loads of children. There's no better place for it to be, really. Loads of families there looking for activities for their children. And what better activity than a little bit of football inside an inflatable football pitch, or playing on the football inflatable. Yeah. So it's been a fantastic partnership for us, and really helped with our sort of growth of our business.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's my first memory of Football Fun Factory, is my eldest son Blake on the inflatable goal, sort of diving across, arms stretched, with the big inflatable ball. I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, it is an amazing bit of kit. I know all of our coaches, I know me as well personally, like to get to the camps a little bit early so we can have 20 minutes, half hour playing on the inflatables ourselves before the kids arrive.
Yeah, I would be, to be fair. Yeah, those inflatables are brilliant, though, aren't they? The kids absolutely love it. And the other thing is, when you pick them up, they're knackered, and they've had a great day. Yeah. They're knackered, and it's great. So how do you make sure that they do enjoy it? Because kids have this habit, don't they? Like, you know, I coach on the sevens team at the moment, and one of the things that we're trying to not take out of them, but they're so competitive all the time. And I think there's always that fear that some of them are going to get left behind because naturally you're going to get some better players than others. How do you keep it sort of fun and enjoyable for everyone? Do you have a process in place?
Yeah, I think it's all down to our head coaches and the way, the positivity and how positive they are with every child. It's about our coaches engaging with every single child that's at that session. We don't ever want to just focus on someone who might be perceived talented. It's about every child, a really inclusive environment where we're there to challenge the children, for them to have fun, but also the biggest outcomes that come from our sessions are the children, the way that the children are, in terms of, we have a blue card award at the end of every session, and that blue card award's given not to the little boy or little girl who scored 15 goals at the session. It's for the child that's shown the most fantastic human qualities throughout that session. So that might be supporting someone who's new at the session, it might be helping another child up, it might be being really encouraging to their teammates. I think the way that we set up and structure our sessions, it's the children understand, the parents understand, it's not a talent program. It's about developing in football, of course, because the children are playing football, but also the life lessons and how they can develop as a human being by being at those sessions. And that's where we're incredibly fortunate to have so many wonderful head coaches that are just as passionate about developing children through football than the children improving their football abilities, which of course they do, because that's what they're doing, they're playing football. I think at times we can be too conscious with young children about them getting better at football, when in essence, if they're playing the game, they will, but it's about the other outcomes, the social, the psychological outcomes that can come from playing the game.
The blue card, we'll talk about that. That's been a big discussion point in my household. Again, I'm going to keep referencing him. My eldest son, Blake, I remember him throwing an absolute shit fit one week because he didn't get it, because in his words, he scored a worldie. And the blue cards got given out, and I remember him storming off and me having to console him and say, look, it's not all about sort of scoring the best goals. It's how you are as a team player and everything. And what I liked about it is he took that and it stuck with him, because I remember the following week, I can't remember what it was, but he was helping one of the players. It might have been like helping do up his shoelaces or something like that, his bootlaces. And then that week he got the blue card and he was over the moon with it.
Ah, it's brilliant.
And so there's so many times mum's taken them to Football Fun Factory, and if one of them's got the blue card, like on their way home, I'm getting a call, Dad, I got the blue card.
Ah, it's brilliant to hear.
So we've got a few of them.
We had one on the outside of my son's bedroom door for about 2 years. We were allowed to take it down. It was blue tacked on there, and it was like look what I've won.
Yeah,
it's really good, and I think that's one of the most important things, like you say, is that there's so many sort of other skills. Being football's all well and good, but it's the other things that set you up for life, don't they? It's a great system, I think.
Yeah, we've got 3 or 4 of those blue cards on my fridge right now still, I think. So
oh, successful then with the blue cards, your kids.
Yes, they live long in the memory, definitely. Do you talk to your kids about sort of nutrition or anything like that? Sort of at the events, is there anything like that you sort of offer?
Yeah, so during our holiday programs, school holidays, we have some sort of nutrition workshops talking about the children, obviously there for a long time, sort of the sort of foods that they should be eating to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and also give them energy which they need for bouncing around on that inflatable goal for hours on end. So it's something obviously that we're incredibly passionate about at the Football Fun Factory, to offer the children sort of lessons I'm sure they're getting at home as well. But without a doubt, we know that keeping a healthy diet is both challenging but sort of really important at the same time, and to learn them lessons as younger people stick a little bit more. And so we do see that as part of our responsibility, particularly on our school holiday programs, to ice and guidance to the children that are in attendance.
Yeah,
it's brilliant.
And I guess sort of taking almost a darker turn, the reality is we're in a world and childhood obesity is on the up. And is it something that you recognise and see sort of within your groups? Obviously, I don't want to pinpoint anyone or any child or something, but is it something that you see?
Yeah, it's certainly something that we're aware of, and sort of something where, again, we want to have a positive impact in every community that our head coaches are working in, and any way we can do that in offering, obviously, football training, giving children the opportunity to run around, because we all know what it's like in this day and age. Kids are glued to their phone, whatever it may be, scrolling around, and giving that opportunity really to step away from that and to be outdoors for an hour, to be running around for an hour, can only be a good thing when we're sort of looking to tackle huge sort of issues like childhood obesity.
Yeah, and that, like I said earlier, that's always one of the things that's worried me. And I think, you know, from a parenting perspective, you've got to get them out. Like, my eldest son loves gaming, and that's, you know, that's just him. He just enjoys that stuff. But you know, you've got to push them out to it. And then once they start enjoying things, actually now he's more into football than he is gaming, which I'm really happy about. But that's because we've never let him just sit on games, if that makes sense.
No, I think it has to be sort of balance. The way the world is now, it's very different. When I was growing up, I'm sure you guys too, we were kids, gaming wasn't really a thing. Or if we had our Sega Mega Drives or Commodore 64, whatever it was, but it wasn't a case of you sort of sat online. And there's obviously a different world now in terms of how people socialize through social media when they're gaming and whatnot. But there has to be a balance, because everyone needs exercise regardless of what age you are, and sort of finding that balance and having the opportunity to do the things that you love, and finding other things to love. Like you say, your little one now prefers being outside playing football than he does sort of gaming. And I think it's our responsibility as adults, both as parents, but also as people that are delivering football programs, to make it fun, enjoyable, and to make children want to do that even more than they want to sort of sit on their phones or games, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and I think the other benefit of it is now they're into football. So, for example, on Saturday he'll have a game. They're both my children have games every Saturday. So come Friday night, we will sit down and we'll say, right, what are we going to, you know, we try and get them thinking about food. What we're going to eat, because you've got a football match tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
You know, and it's kind of opened that door to a healthier lifestyle rather than just being more active or eating healthy. Like, we can now leverage football in a weird way to say, you've got training tonight. Shall we have some pasta and some, you know, some salad or something, or try and get them to eat salad, you know, and like, but, you know, we're trying to get them thinking about fueling themselves, like you were saying, for the sport that they've now fallen in love with. I think that's very powerful when it comes to parenting.
That without, and I think obviously the love for children that have, whether it be football or any other sort of physical activity, every sport, it is a way of sort of educating children, because they want to be able to run around as much as they can, and sort of educate them on what the best foods are to eat, how we can sort of help and support them to be able to run more, and that having a good healthy diet certainly allows it for children as it does for us as adults.
So what's the future for Football Fun Factory, Luke? Where does it go from here?
Yeah, so we've got a huge, bold ambition of becoming the world's leading children's football coaching organisation, which of course is a huge statement to make. I don't say it with any arrogance or ego, but we really believe that with the programs that we offer, if we can keep adding fantastic people to our team, we can grow our organisation sort of worldwide. And the why behind that is to see millions of children hopefully eventually enjoying the Football Fun Factory programs, because that's why the business was put together, to weigh a little bit from the risk it can get at times at a young age, to give every child, regardless of their current ability levels, the opportunity just to play with a smile on their face in an environment that is sort of helps them fall in love with the game.
Yeah, so few children make it, let's be honest, do they? But like you said, you've got to fall in love with the game, and it's about those extra skills that you get.
Yeah, and I think, like, obviously there is so few people that are lucky enough to become professional footballers, but every child that starts playing football will go on to doing something, and the lessons that they can learn as a youngster playing football can hold them in such good stead, whatever industry they decide to go into when they get to that point in their lives.
Absolutely. And so, going back to yourself, Luke. So, what do you do these days to sort of keep yourself in shape, and sort of how important is nutrition to you?
Yeah, so I think, like, when I first stopped playing football, I think I took being fit and healthy for granted, and sort of saw that as a time where I didn't have to do that and probably didn't as much keep the diet that I should. But I think you start to feel that in yourself, and I think you recognize that you want to feel good all the time. And I think a healthy diet is sort of so important to feel good all the time. So in terms of, obviously I'll have an odd treat every now and again, but try and maintain a healthy diet, try and eat plenty of fruit, plenty of vegetables, and have a balanced diet, really, because I think that's the most important thing, is to find time and to plan meals and to have preparation. Because I think when you get incredibly busy, when you're working a full-time job, that can be a challenge where it does come about what's easiest, where sometimes when it's what's easiest, we don't make the best choices that we can. So I think in my sort of life now, it is all around sort of planning and preparing and having the odd treat every now and again. Don't get me wrong, there's sometimes where we'll have a takeaway at the weekend, but trying to maintain a healthy lifestyle, because I know if I can keep a good diet and exercise, I feel a heck of a lot better than if I don't exercise and eat rubbish foods all the time.
So what would be your go-to healthy meal then, Luke?
I think the go-to these days, I like a nice homemade soup. So I'm a big soup fan. So we've got a soup maker at home. So I really enjoy a nice sort of vegetable soup that we've prepared, and it can last a few days as well. Also love fish. So we eat a lot of fish, obviously with the omegas, the oils that come with that, making incredibly and fresh vegetables. I think the most important thing is making sure, which again can be hard, is having vegetables with every meal. I think that's something we've always encouraged our children to do, and something that we've tried to set a good example, because I think at times that can be something that's missed out of children's diet because they don't like it. I know I was like that as a child, where I'd sort of push the vegetables to the side of the plate. But I think the understanding of knowing the importance and the goodness that brings is certainly something that we try and have on a daily basis within our house.
I guess, have you experienced sort of challenges with your own kids then, in terms of getting them to eat the right things, and how have you dealt with that?
Yeah, I think in a very similar way to you guys have spoke about with your own kids in playing sport. I think we spoke about sort of the apple don't fall from the tree. As I said earlier, as a kid, I was an incredibly fussy eater, and I'd leave a lot. I didn't eat that much. And I think my children were quite similar, but I think them, as they've got older, it's the understanding of eating the good foods will make them feel better to do what they love doing, which is, of course, playing football, and sort of having the energy to do that. So without doubt, had challenges in the past trying to help them try new things which they weren't keen to do, but sort of understanding of what trying new things, which is always a good thing to do, and sort of how that can improve their performance on the pitch or improve their energy on a daily basis to do what they love doing.
So do you still get out and play occasionally, or do you, I mean, other than obviously the Testament, the charity, the Legends match, but do you still sort of play to keep yourself fit and active?
Yeah, so usually these days I'll do running's my sort of activity, where I'll get out and have a run every morning to try and keep fit and healthy. But I do play during the summer. I play quite a lot of charity games for a team of old Manchester United players, not at the sort of level of the Legends game the other week, but there's a group of us that go and play various charity games and what. It's always a pleasure to sort of pull the boots on. The legs certainly aren't what they once were. It takes me a few days to recover after a game, but it's always sort of to have that, again, them social aspects, that camaraderie, that being in the dressing room again and sort of catching up with old people. It's really sort of good for me to sort of, in terms of my mental health, to go and play that game again, but certainly not sort of a level or as often as I did as a professional football player.
We've just had an episode we've recorded with Richard Crick, who runs a company called Man vs Fat. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, no, I know it.
It's like yeah, brilliant, and it's exactly what we were saying there. You know, obviously that's at a lower level than anything professional, but it's the same benefits. Like you said, I think mental health again it is another big one. And I think football, whether you're a child or an adult, it's great to be around people, socializing, making friends, doing a sport, so you get your blood flowing, your endorphins moving around. You know, sport is such a good way to
bring people together, isn't it?
Yeah.
No, brilliant. No, 100%. And the Man versus Fat is such a fantastic thing. I think a massive challenge for people when they do put on weight is that maybe the embarrassment of going to do physical activity because they might feel that they're at a certain size. And I think the man versus fat, to bring people together that are all there for similar reasons, obviously to lose some weight, but also in a social environment to speak to each other, to spend time with each other. And it is such a plastic concept that is. It's brilliant to see it grow so much and do so well.
Yeah, do you want to just sort of tell us sort of where people can find Football Fun Factory if they want to get their kids involved?
Yeah, of course. So we just announced that we've got 100 head coaches, franchisees running our programs all over the UK and Ireland. So if you've got a little one who might want to get involved in football in one of our sessions, then simply go on the Football Fun Factory website, footballfunfactory.co.uk, type in your postcode and all the closest sessions will come up. If you book on, you'll get a 3-week free trial to see if your little one will enjoy it. And if they do, then you can sign up to the program. So it's certainly worth it, even for the 3-week free trial. And I'm sure they'll have a whale of a time should they go.
And like we've said during this episode, me and Mark thoroughly recommend that.
Yeah.
Our children have both done it and grown a love for the sport, since then. But we'll also make sure we put a link for anyone listening who's interested in the show notes, so you can just click straight on and go through to the website. But yeah, Luke, thank you ever so much for coming on to the podcast. It's been delightful.
Yes, absolutely. Like I said, an ex-Norwich player for me is really exciting. And okay, you've won the Premier League and you played with Beckham and Roy Keane and that, but yeah, you've played for Norwich, so that's fantastic.
For having me, guys. Absolute pleasure talking to you both.
Okay, so that was Luke's episode, Luke Chadwick. Brilliant, mate, I thought.
Yeah, I love that. It was great to have a Premier League winner on. And I know I talk about him playing for Norwich, and that was part of his career, but to play with the likes of Roy Keane, Paul Scholes, Beckham, Giggs, that's huge. And so sort of to share that with us was awesome, I think.
Yeah, we're really lucky to have him on. And it was really nice to be able to talk to professional football about, what food they eat, what it was like growing up, who was good to play with, who was good to play against, all that sort of stuff. It's a real privilege to be able to have someone on the podcast of that standing. And like we said in the warm-up really before we got to Luke being on, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. What Luke is doing now really helps young people find love for the sport without the pressure, which I think is so important.
It is, especially at a young age. You just want kids to go out and have fun. But what I liked as well and what I took away from it wasn't just about playing football. They do give a bit of nutrition advice, and they talk to them about eating the right foods and how that's important for playing football. And like we said, the apple don't fall far from the tree. That's our message from this episode. And what you're doing, fellas, is seen by the little ones. So if you eat shit food, you're lazy, you're sitting on the sofa, then your little ones are going to pick that up and see that as normal. And that's not a message we want. And I'm sure you wouldn't want to sort of instill that on your kids either. So anything that encourages kids to get out and be active is great in our side of things. But yeah, he's a really nice chap, and it was great to have him on.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. If you've enjoyed the episode, be sure to let us know. Give us a review on your social media platform. If you want to leave us a comment, let us know what you think, then do on our social media at Big Fellas Podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on your podcast platform, and we'll see you in the next one.
See you soon, guys.